If you've ever been putting together any kind of flooring and felt like maybe you were going backwards, well, there's a possibility that maybe you actually were. Typically, flooring like this has a correct direction and a backwards direction to put this together. So typically you would want to have this piece here like this, and then you're gonna bring this other piece in, and we're gonna lock it in place like this, and it's gonna basically drop in, and it will lock in fairly easily. The problem is that sometimes if you're going backwards, you have to go the other way around. I have to take this piece and I have to tuck it up underneath, and then I force it in and bring it down. And it doesn't look like it as I'm doing it right out here in the open, but when you're doing it down here on a floor, it can kind of be a bear. Now, originally in this part of the house, this flooring was already there, and we had a transition here, and then this room had carpet in it. Well, we put this flooring in a couple of years ago. Well, now that we've decided to pull the transition, extend this flooring into this room, this is where now we've got to go backwards because, you know, we were doing this a couple of years later and we wanted this to all kind of flow. And so jury's kind of out on whether or not it's really worth it to pull this transition and do this. Because it does create a lot of work when you do it this way. But I think it's going to look really good. It's just a little bit more of a headache. So I want to show you some tips and some tricks that I've figured out to kind of make this flow and to work a little bit better, because sometimes this is kind of a necessary evil, even if you're just having to do this and back up into a closet or something like that every once in a while. Real quick, here's the tools that you kind of need. Some kind of a mallet, and then I just took a couple of scrap pieces of this flooring. And what I did was I just got a piece that I've got the tongue left over here, the groove left over here, and I cut the other part off. I cut the tongue off on the other side, and I'm using this as a tapping block. So I'm gonna lock this in, and then I will use this to tap the flooring in with. You can also use a tapping block too. I've just found that doing this backwards, I haven't needed this near as much as I need just this. Like, we're just gonna start with this first piece. And mine worked out to where I could kind of just do, I've just kind of done like a 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, and then just kind of staggered that around so I don't just totally have a stair step effect. And then I'm bringing this over within a 1/4 inch of the edge of my wall. So my first piece is locked into place. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the end piece together. Now, it's gonna be a little shifty at first, especially because this is a short piece that I'm working with, but this is it. The other thing is that when you're doing this, if there is any kind of little piece of anything in there, it will cause you some grief. So a little piece of, the tongue or the groove that didn't lock in place or that didn't get cut off very good from the factory, anything like that will cause you a lot of trouble. So just make sure there's nothing in there. Okay, then we're gonna bump it like that. Now I see something in there again already. Done this whole thing and haven't hardly had this problem. But now that I've got this kind of how I want it, I'm locking this up and I'm tilting this up just a little bit as I'm doing it. Now I'm going to take my piece. I'm going to use it here. I'm going to lock it in place, and this will allow me to safely be able to tap this without tearing up any of this locking mechanism on the other side. So I've got it here, and I'm going to tilt this up just a little. And there it fell in. But when it did it, it knocked this guy out just a little bit. So I'm going to bring this guy over. Same thing here. And now we're back in. Everything's good there. And now I'm going to double check. I'm going to kind of move this over, and I'm going to kind of rework this. Now, the downside to this is that it does kind of back and forth a little bit sometimes, and you're just going to have to go back and forth. Okay, so we're going to hit it here again. I'm going to work it here. Okay, I don't want my plastic wrapped up like that if I can keep from it. Okay, so I've about got that locked in good. Now I'm going to start working toward the other end. And as you do it, it'll start to fall down flat. And it'll land in there just right. Okay, so that one's flat. We're going to move on down to the next one. Another thing that you want to make sure that you've got is some kind of a foam pad for your knees. So next, we're going to flip this around the right way. Okay, we've got this. We're going to lock this end piece in. Okay, got it right there. Okay, now I'm going to bring this in the best that I can a little bit. Okay, I'm going to kind of bump it, bump, bump, bump. Okay, now I'm going to tilt it up. I'm gonna kind of work down through here a little bit, because again, we're doing this backwards. And so it's not how it's designed, and it's not super fun. There's a lot more fun things I'd rather be doing today than this right here. Okay, so it fell underneath it. So if it starts acting up, take another piece and go all the way until it lands just a little bit under there. And it will help to hold that in place as you do this. It'll help to kind of give you a little bit of an angle and lift that up. And then it fell in place right there. Now I can pull this out. There we go. And I'm gonna work down to this one. As I do it though, I'm gonna make sure that I'm still in. And as I'm doing this, again, it's gonna fight me and it's gonna kind of jump around a little bit, but that's okay, we'll get there. Okay, we're gonna work down this way again. Down here again, we're getting toward the end, and I'm hearing it start to finally lock in place. Okay, we've got all of that. Now I'm gonna move to this other end. I'm gonna have to cut a piece for this. Okay, so we've moved down and we're starting over on this next row. Lining everything up here. Drop this in place. Typically your first piece is not too bad. It's the next piece that really starts to have some problems. We're gonna drop this in here. Slide this over. Now this is the part where we're angling this up on this side so that we can kind of bump this in. If it doesn't want to bump in, we're going to take our block, we're going to shove it up underneath here to where we get this lifted up just a little, and there it will drop in. Okay, now do it again. Come down here, kind of lock it in place a little bit, rework it. Now, like I said a minute ago, this will fight you. And so it's already tried to knock this out a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna come back up here, get it how we want it. We're gonna attempt to go ahead and tap this side in. Okay, that went in pretty good. Now we'll come back over here, tap this in. Okay, those are all in. Those are all pretty good. So we can pop this out. And then we're going to come down through here. And then we're going to tap it. Come over here. Sometimes it's going to feel a little bit like something maybe is a little bit too tight. If something feels off or something feels too bound up, just back up and just redo it again, start over. But again, the key, start by putting together the ends of the boards together, lock those in first, and then slide it in place. You'll get to where you can kind of figure it out and do it. It's taken me pretty much most of this room to kind of figure this out, but now I can kind of roll along pretty good.